pounds on me, so I got that fire on me. In the desert heat, I'm burning marijuana, trying to fill bags with green and blue cheese. In the city, the only thing that matters is the money, and that's the only thing I want, honey. I live the life that's crummy, so I want my gold like a day sunny. Once upon a time.
Hey, this is Bird Rabbit. This is the Mitchell Blue episode series. And for today, we are going to be doing the Mitchell Blue book read. We read some books last year, got some started. Read Buffalo Soldier book, Black Indian Slaves book. Started off even the Adolf Hitler book. We'll read on like King Leopold, all that other stuff. We even got the Delectable Negro and stuff like that. We'll read, and on these obsessions with the obsession with slaves, black male slaves. Yeah, or even just obsession. Yeah. Okay. But anywho, let's get this started. So we're going to start off a new book. We're going to be starting off reading Cherokee Bill, Black Cowboy, Indian Outlaw. So let's get it started. Alright. Once upon a time in the late 19th century, there was an outlaw that captured the imagination of the American public like no other. He can be compared to John Dillinger or Pretty Boy Floyd of the 1930s. Like these men, he garnered national press for his exploits. The well-known New York Times had a running commentary on his actions and deeds. This outlaw's name was Crawford Goldsby, better known as Cherokee Bill. I will refer to him interchangeably in the text, but most likely a sobriquet, Cherokee Bill. Cherokee Bill was every bit of as colorful and outrageous as any criminal of the western frontier, perhaps even more so. There was a few things about him that made him truly unique for a famous desperado of the Purple Sage. First and foremost, he was an African American living in the Indian Territory. Bill was a descendant of slaves on both sides of his family lineage. The Indian Territory was the home of Indian freemen of the 5 civilized tribes. These were black people who, before the Civil War, had been slaves of the Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and Seminole tribes. Bill was a citizen of the Cherokee Nation as a freeman. From his mother's lineage, his father was mulatto from Alabama. We will discuss this more in depth in the following chapters. The family name was Goldsby, but it was pronounced and sound as Goldsby or Gusby, and sometimes it was mistakenly spelled as such. Cherokee Bill was a cowboy many times outlaws. Let me read that over. Cherokee Bill was a cowboy, many times outlaws of the Old West had never worked as true cowboys on the range, but this was common for outlaws of the Indian Territory, pre-statehood Oklahoma, and there was quite a few black, white, and red outlaws who were former cowboys. And researching the history of the Indian Territory, there were a large number of African Americans, many Indian freemen, who became outlaws in the Indian Territory. The most famous outlaw in the 1880s in the Indian Territory was a black man named DECSEDANTS, who was Creek freeman. Cherokee Bill, a Cherokee freedman, became the most famous outlaw of the 1890s, and arguably the most famous in the history of the Indian Territory. Indians that revealed Cherokee Bill's notoriety in the Indian Territory would have to include Ned Christie and Henry Starr, both Cherokee. After the Oklahoma Territory was formed in 1890, the Outlaws would cross the borders of the Indian and Oklahoma territories quite frequently, going in both directions. They would commit crimes in the Twin Territories, running from the deputies, U.S. Marshals, and the Indian police in a constant struggle for survival. The more well-known white outlaws were mainly from the Oklahoma Territory, but would commit crimes in the Indian Territory. These would include desperados such as Dalton Brothers, Dynamite Dick Clifton, the Christian Brothers, and Al Jennings. It should be noted that the Oklahoma Territory was Indian land open for settlement in 1889. Large numbers of whites and blacks moved into this land, although there were black felons in the Oklahoma Territory. None gathered the fame and notoriety as the ones from the Indian Territory, who were principally Indian freedmen. I would have to compare Cherokee Bill to Billy the Kid, Billy Atram of New Mexico Territory fame. Although both outlaws received national media attention for their crimes while they were living, Billy the Kid was remembered and immortalized in books and films in the 19th century. This did not occur for Cherokee Bill. During their criminal careers, both men attempted jailbreaks. Billy the Kid was successful, Cherokee Bill was not. Some people have said this was what separated the two from both becoming immortal. Hollywood has made over 45 movies on Billy the Kid, and the state of New Mexico has him woven into tourism opportunities all over the state today. When traveling to New Mexico, you definitely know you are in Billy the Kid country. There were no movies and few books written on Cherokee Bill, and if you traveled in Oklahoma today, you would never know Cherokee Bill existed. I would also compare Cherokee Bill to the Depression era outlaw John Dillinger. Both became nationally known for their depredation, and both of their careers lasted about the same amount of time. A little over a year in length. Dillinger was successful in a jailbreak, as was Billy the Kid, but Cherokee Bill attempted jailbreak, as mentioned earlier, was unsuccessful. If Cherokee Bill had been more successful with his attempt, it might have added to his notoriety, as it did for Dillinger and the Kid. There were There were other black outlaws in the Wild West. Two rode with Billy the Kid in New Mexico Territory. In the Indian Territory, there was the infamous Dick Glass of 1880s, but Cherokee Bill became the most famous black outlaw of the Wild West era. Travel along with me, my narrative journey of Crawford Goldsby, aka Cherokee Bill. We will examine family history, the political climate in the Indian Territory at the time of his crimes, and the national fame that he was able to garner. After much research, I would have to say that Cherokee Bill became the most famous black outlaw of the late 19th century. Sometimes his nickname made people believe he was a Native American. This was evident later in Hollywood when a Western television series highlighted the exploits of Cherokee Bill in one of their programs and identified him as an Indian. This was an episode of Stories of the Century, which was broadcast in February of 1955. The actor portrayed Cherokee Bill was an Indian, one of the few Native Americans in Hollywood at the time. His name was Pat Hogan, and he was Patami Ondina from Oklahoma. Hogan appeared in many other television programs at the time portraying Indians, including Walt Disney's Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier. In 1965, the first book on black cowboys was published by author Philip Durham Everett L. Jones, titled The Negro Cowboy. They have a description of Cherokee Bill that was gleaned from an earlier book published in 1928 titled Warpath and Cattle Trail, written by Hubert E. Collins. The person Collins wrote about was from the 1870s, took place in the Indian Territory, but was not Crawford Goldsby. There appears to have been a few cowboys in the late 19th century with the moniker of Cherokee Bill. The one in Warpath and Cattle Trail was a black man, but had long flowing hair like Nat Love, aka Deadwood Dick. Crawford Goldsby, the Cherokee Bill of the Indian Territory during the 1890s, had short, kinky hair common among African Americans. Goldsby Cherokee would become the most famous of all during the Wild West era. Cherokee Bill was a daring and dangerous as many desperados you will find in the Old West. When it comes to sheer criminality, he took a backseat to no one. I would like to thank my wife, Patrice, for keeping me on point in regards to finishing this book. If there was any errors in the book, I take all responsibilities for them. I would also like to thank Benny McCrae of Columbus, Ohio, for assisting with the information on Cherokee Bill. Desi Preston, a relative of George Goldsby, was very helpful with the information on and photos of her family. Nika Smith, a descendant of Ike Rogers, gave information and photos on Rogers' family. Nikki Yvette Carter, a relative of Maggie Glass, shared photos of her family. I want to give a big thank you for all the people who were considerate and shared information for my research. I hope everyone enjoys this journey back to the Old West, when Indian Territory was the most dangerous area for lawmen in the land west of Mississippi River. Hopefully, as we celebrate and remember outlaws such as Jesse James, Billy the Kid, Butch Cassidy, and Daltons in the Western lore, we can now add the name Cherokee Bill to the list. Much feared but highly revered. Chapter 1. The Legend. On one of the many research trips to Oklahoma during the 1980s, I met a black man near Claremore who gave me information on Cherokee Bill and his relationship to the black community in eastern Oklahoma. The gentleman told me, as a child growing up in the black community, a popular refrain was commonly heard in the early 20th century by blacks. It went like this: if I grew up and don't get killed, I want to grow up and be another nigga like Cherokee Bill. Most of what originally was known about Cherokee Bill came from the book Hell on the Border. He hanged 88 men, published in 1898. This book was a 714-page book on Judge Isaac C. Parker and the federal court at Fort Smith, Arkansas, which had jurisdiction over the Indian Territory. At this time in American history, this was the largest federal court in the United States, with more than 75,000 square miles within the jurisdiction. Much of what was written about Bill was incorrect, except for the courtroom proceedings, but it did lay the framework for the legend of this outlaw. Hell on the Border also went into great detail with the significance of the number 13 with Cherokee Bill's life. Let's read that over. Hell on Border also went great detail with the significance. I said that right, like probably twice already, and I was saying it wrong. Let's do it again. Significance of the number 13 with Cherokee Bill's life. First, it was thought that he had killed 13 men during his days on the outlaw path. The reward for the capture of Cherokee Bill was 1,300. His first sentence to die was pronounced on April 13th. In an attempted jailbreak, Cherokee Bill killed a jail guard on July 26th, or twice 13th. During that fight, he fired 13 shots. Oh, okay. So, as I'm understanding, he's famous for the number 13. So, I'll read that over if y'all didn't understand that. Hell on Border also went in great detail with the significance of the number 13 with Cherokee Bill's life. first, it was thought that he had killed 13 men during his days on the outlaw path. The reward for the capture of Cherokee Bill was $1,300. His first sentence to die was pronounced on April 13th. In an attempted jailbreak, Cherokee Bill killed a guard on July 26th, or twice. 13. Got you. 13 plus 13. During that fight, he fired 13 shots. When Cherokee Bill was convicted, Judge Isaac C. Parker took 13 minutes in giving the charge to the jury. The actual hours in arriving at the verdict by the jury was 13 minutes, and the jury and deputy during his trial, who ate and slept together, made a company of 13. And there were 13 witnesses for the prosecution during Cherokee Bill's trial. Although Cherokee Bill was a citizen of the Cherokee Nation in the Indian Territory and is buried in the National Cherokee Cemetery in Fort Gibson, Oklahoma, there hasn't been much acknowledgement of him being a member of the Cherokee Nation. On my visits to the Cherokee National Museum in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, I have not seen him mentioned with other legendary Cherokee outlaws such as Ned Christie or Zeke Proctor, both seen as Cherokee patriots today, or Cherokee bank robber Henry Starr, who was released from prison due to his friendship with Cherokee Bill. More on that later. The famous Cherokee writer, author, and Cherokee national historian Robert J. Conley recognized Crawford Goldsby as a Cherokee citizen in his writing. Hold on, they have a picture of Cherokee Bill. There's a picture of him. So that's what Cherokee Bill looked like. That's a picture of Cherokee Bill. So, yeah, zoom in to Cherokee Bill. That's Cherokee Bill. Outlaw Cherokee Bill. Alright. So let's continue reading that. Alright. This is a map of the Indian Territories in, Oklahoma. Alright, we got the Indian map. Before we continue reading, this is the Indian Territories. Alright, 1914 map of the Indian Territories and land openings in Oklahoma. Alright. Anywho, Goldsby as a Cherokee citizen in his writing, in his book, The Witch of Going Snake and Other Stories, he wrote a short fictional story of Cherokee Bill titled The Name. Conley also mentioned Cherokee Bill as a Cherokee outlaw in the book Cherokee, which was pictorial, historical overview of the Cherokee people in the United States. Conley also included Cherokee Bill in his A Cherokee Encyclopedia, which was published by the University of New Mexico Press in 2007. In 1994, the Cherokee husband and wife team of Jack F. and Anna J. Kirkpatrick published a book titled Friends of Thunder, Folk Tales of the Oklahoma Cherokee, that included a section on Cherokee Bill. One of the stories stated he robbed just about anything, even a train that was traveling at top speed. Cherokee Bill couldn't do it, and if he had to do it alone, he did it. He even disconnected trains while they were in motion, they say. And when he disconnected one, they left one on the track, and that's the way he robbed people. They know the Oklahoma Wild West historian Glenn Shirley wrote in his book Toughest of Them All, take the records of John Wesley Hardin, Bill Longley, Black Jack Ketchum, Sam Bass, or any other Western desperados, and they can be considered small potatoes when compared with Cherokee Bill, the most noted renegade to infest the Oklahoma country in the 90s. When there was no Sunday west of St. Louis, no God west of Fort Smith. For more than 3 years, he terrorized this wild country, then known as Indian Territory, and no one cared to attempt to capture him. and at least one town in the interest of preserving the lives of its citizens, passed an ordinance making it a misdemeanor for anyone to molest him. Jeez Louise. When he was aboard within its limits, not until a reward of $1,300 was offered for him, dead or alive, did the federal officers begin making plans for his capture. Jeez Louise. Alright. In one respect, he was a good deal like the modern bandit. He was a hand with women. My bad. That's a wild take right there. That was a wild take. Passed an ordinance making it a misdemeanor for anyone to molest him. That's crazy, dog. That's crazy. Alright, that's crazy. That's crazy, man. People are really wild. That makes me fucking make me want to read that other book. What is it called? The Delectable Negro, where these fucking white people have an obsession with fucking black people, dog. Brown, like black Indians, all that shit. Like black, brown, like to slavery, like, you know what I'm saying, cannibalism, like just like obsession of feeding, like even like breaking down to like sexual. It's crazy, dog. Crazy, man. Crazy. Anyway, alright. In one respect, he was good deal like the modern bandit. He was a hand with women. He had a sweetheart in nearly every section of country which he traveled, but the one he loved best was Maggie Glass, the cousin of Ike Rogers, a Cherokee Indian, formerly a deputy United States Marshal and intimately acquainted with the killer. During his criminal career, Cherokee Bill was followed by the New York Times newspaper, giving him unprecedented national attention for an African American criminal at that time in the United States history. Some writers have said that Cherokee Bill was only known in a regional context. This is not true. During his time, he received national attention. He was also followed by the newspaper around the country, much of it having to do with his association with Bill Cook Gaines of the Indian Territory. I will list some of the articles from the New York Times later in the text. Chapter 2. So we reached chapter 2. And we'll continue. Yeah, we're gonna go continue all of this because he gets deep into it. So let's continue reading this because we got pages to go. That was just the beginning. All right. Much of what is known today of Cherokee Bill's origins was originally published in the book Hell on the Border by S.W. Harmon, which was published in 1898. This book focused on the Fort Smith federal court during the Judge Isaac C. Parker reign and the many outlaws and criminals who were captured, executed in the Arkansas federal court, and jailed. Quite a bit of the book focused on Cherokee Bill because he was the most famous outlaw in history of the Indian Territory and the Fort Smith federal court. The book stated Crawford Gosby was born at Fort Concho, Texas, February 8, 1876. His father being a soldier in the 10th Cavalry. Nice. 10th Cavalry, United States regular Army. He was George Goldsby, now a well-to-do and respected farmer at Cleveland, Oklahoma, where he is known by the name Bill Scott. He is of Mexican extraction mixed with white and Sioux Indian. The maiden name of Crawford Gosby's mother was Ellen Beck. She was half Negro, 1/4 Cherokee Indian, and 1/4 white. When he was quite young, Crawford Goldsby's parents separated, and until he was 7 years old, he lived at Fort Gibson with his nurse and old colored auntie named Amanda Foster. The birth date and place of origins for Cherokee Bill is correct, but clarification on misinformation above was found in the U.S. Army pension requests that both George Goldsby and Ellen Beck Lynch filed at different times. In the pension request interviews, George stated that many times his name was misspelled as Goolsby or Goldsby. This was because Goldsby was correctly pronounced and sounds like Goldsby, not phonetically as Goldsby and most pronounce it today. Additionally, in the interviews, George stated that he lied about his ethnicity because he was married to a white woman. It was common for African American and women, if they could, to try to pass for another ethnicity in the late 19th century due to bias and bigotry against black people in this country. Goldsby was especially vulnerable because he was living with a white woman, which could at that time possibly cause serious injury or his death. The noted historian and researcher Benny J. McCree wrote, in a signed deposition on January 29, 1912, George Goldsby stated that he was born in Perry County, Alabama on February 22, 1843. His father was Thorson Goldsby, Selma, Alabama, and his mother was Hester King, a mulatto who resided on her own place, West Summerfield Road between Selma and Marin. George also stated that he had 4 brothers and 2 sisters by the same mother and father: Crawford, Abner, Joseph, Blevins, Mary, and Susie. Ellen was born in Delaware District of the Cherokee Nation. Crawford's maternal grandfather was Ludge Beck, described as being a Cherokee of the half-blood, and grandmother was Tempe Beck. Both had been slaves, once owned by Jeffrey Beck, a Cherokee. Amanda Foster, an African American who also interviewed by pension board the Muskogee, Oklahoma, for Ellen Lynch's request for consideration on February 2nd, 1912. She was 84 years of age at the time. In her interview, Amanda stated that Ellen, in her employment with the Army, waited on the officers at Fort Gibson. She later learned that Ellen and George had married at Fort Sin, Indian Territory. She said that Ellen later came back to Fort Gibson at the different times and left 4 children with her to take care of. Ellen left boys Crawford, Clarence, and the girl Georgia, and later the youngest boy Luther. Georgia was the oldest of all siblings. Amanda said that their children went by surnames Goldsby. At the time of the interview, Amanda stated that all the children were dead except for Georgia, who married John Foreman and lived near Nowata, Oklahoma. She also said that everyone regarded George as a white man. Ellen Lynch was interviewed by a pension board on February 3rd, 1912. She was 53 years old at the time. She was born February of 1859 and died December 17, 1932 in Fort Gibson, Oklahoma. Ellen stated that she was at one time the wife of George Goldsby, who after went by the name of William Scott. They were married on July 4, 1874 at Fort Sill, Indian Territory. At this time, she was 15 years of age. George was 29. Ellen stated that she had first met Goldsby at Fort Gibson, Cherokee Nation in 1872. Goldsby at that time, she stated, was 1st Segment Troop H 10th U.S. Cavalry Regiment on the storied, one of the storied Buffalo Soldier units. Alright, so they were part of the 10th Cavalry Regiment, one of the storied Buffalo Soldier units. So the 10th Cavalry. Nice. That's a famous 10th Cavalry. Oh, you know what? We'll get into that later. Never mind. 10th Cavalry. Ellen went with the troop for Gibson Fort Sill as the regimental authenticated laundress of D Troop. Once the Fort Sill, Ellen said that Goldsby was transferred to Troop D. Later, after marriage to Goldsby, but still working as the original laundress in the regiment, was transferred to Fort Concho near San Angelo, Texas. Ellen stated that the disposition that while Fort Concho, Goldsby was charged with inciting a riot in San Angelo and a warrant was drawn up for his arrest, which at the time he went AWOL before a trial could take place. After this occurred, Ellen returned to Fort Gibson and said George joined her after 8 or 9 months had elapsed. She said George only stayed in Fort Gibson for a few weeks after he left. She said she never saw him again. Ellen said the year this took place was 1880. Evidently, Ellen went back to the 10th U.S. Cavalry Regiment as an authenticated laundress in later disposition in June 1923. She stated that George left her. She stayed with the regiment, and government gave her rations, transportation, and living quarters wherever the 10th Cavalry was headquartered. Ellen said she was employed at Fort Concho and Fort Davis, Texas, Fort Grant, Fort Apache in Arizona. I think that's a good place to leave off because I really want to. But this is a picture of Cherokee Bill and his mother Ellen. Yeah, she looks black. Yeah, she's black. Yeah, that's Cherokee Bill and his mother. Yeah, but I want to leave off right here at she was employed at Fort Concho, Fort Davis, Texas, Fort Grant, and Fort Apache in Arizona. So, I noticed they're in the 10th Cavalry of the Buffalo Soldiers. And, yeah, let me show you. So, I've been reading a lot about Buffalo Soldiers and all this other stuff, so that's pretty cool that Cherokee Bill's parents was part of the 10th Cavalry of the Buffalo Soldiers and stuff like that and all that other stuff. But this is a goldback. I don't know if y'all ever heard of a goldback, but this is a goldback. This is an Arizona goldback. And what's on it is the 10th Cavalry Buffalo Soldiers. You see the black guy over here. These were made in, the company made these are based in Utah, probably Mormons. Like the earlier goldbacks have a lot of like Mormon imagery and stuff like that, but I believe the Mormons are trying to be more what's it called, more inclusive. So they're you know what I'm saying, they're adding color to their portraits, their goldbacks. But this is my opinion, it's nobody else's opinion, you know what I'm saying. But I'm really they got me. I like the goldbacks, you know, they're inclusive, you know. But this is a $10 worth, well, this is a 10 note goldback, not a $10 worth. This is more than $10. This is a spot price around, like right now is around $83. And this is a 1/100th of a troy ounce of 24 karat gold. And this is not legal tender. This is like a negotiable tender, like a business can accept it or not accept it, you know what I'm saying. It's their decision. But gold and silver is being legalized to be used as tender, you know what I'm saying, for your groceries or anything like that, since you know what I'm saying, what's it called, since the rise of prices, basically. And yeah, but this is very cool, and this is book is very cool, that his Cherokee Bill, even like his story is, we're going to continue reading obviously, but his story, his parents was part of the 10th Cavalry Buffalo Soldiers. So I think that was very interesting. And yeah, so this is also a go back, you know what I'm saying? So if you're interested in go backs, you know what I'm saying? I'm not sponsored by these guys. This is my hobby. I like collecting them, you know what I'm saying? They like to be what's it called? Spread out, but you know, time and place for everything, I say. And yeah, so you know what I'm saying, if you're interested, they got these. Go back, try to look at them, GOLDBACKS.com, you know what I'm saying. But this is Mitchell Blue, and this is the Mitchell Blue episode series, and this was the book read, Cherokee Bill. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thank you.